Thanks for doing this interview with me. My name is Kerstin Knopf. I have a professorship for North American and post-colonial literatures and cultures at the University of Bremen in northwest Germany. And my research interests are indigenous studies, indigenous films and post-colonial films around the world, American and Canadian Gothic fiction of the 19th century, power relations in terms of knowledge systems and indigenous and post-colonial knowledge systems, and recently also the blue humanities, which are, ocean-related studies of the humanities, where we really look at ocean histories, contemporary challenges in terms of oceans, economics, trade, travel, and such things connected to oceans, and of course also environmental issues and climate change. I am currently the director of Inputs and BICS in Bremen. Inputs is the Institute for Post-Colonial and Transcultural Studies, and BICS is the Bremen Institute for Canada and Quebec Studies. I have also been president of GKS, which is the National German Association for Canadian Studies, or better to be correct, the Association for Canadian Studies in German-speaking countries, because it includes Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And I've also been an ICCS president. And what really is interesting or important for me is that the study of Canada needs to be done through networking activities. And what really is important to me now in my role as a teacher of Canadian studies, as a teacher of Canadian novels, and doing research in Canadian studies, is actually facilitating the study of younger emerging scholars, and kind of channeling or guiding them towards the study of Canada. And I will, also support networking activities and sharing knowledges, like in this ICCS online webinar here that we've just conducted. And I'm also interested in kind of continuing the structures that were established when I was a student and way earlier. And I, really benefited from these structures in terms of international Canadian studies, all the networks that had been, established. Many national associations of Canadian studies that were doing networks or creating networks amongst each other, or, all the network activities that the ICCS has actually created. And I myself have really benefited from ICCS scholarships, from ICCS networking activities, and they have helped me as a student, then also as a PhD student, and later as a postdoc student, where I was usually with, ICCS scholarships or Government of Canada scholarships through the Understanding Canada program. I was at Canadian universities twice, at the First Nations University in Regina and once at the University of Ottawa, with 6 months research grants to study, for my ME thesis, PhD thesis, and also a postdoc thesis. And, these kind of structures have really helped forwarding my career. And they have also helped kind of directing my interest, a little bit away from the study of the US and more towards the study of Canada, where, in the end, I've clearly focused on the study of Canada. And so I understand my role as a teacher basically facilitating that kind of networking, that kind of research, that kind of, focusing on the study of Canada, and helping emerging scholars on that way. What is one concept that is particularly useful in better understanding Canada? From my personal viewpoint, Canada is more an immigration country, and it's also a settler colonial country. And in this capacity, as much as we can, critique settler colonialism, and I do in my studies, I do. settler colonialism and, all these kinds of processes of immigration. Still, Canada as a consequence, like US, is a very multicultural, pluriversal country. And this pluriculturality is really something that is important to me in understanding Canada. And I'm consciously using pluriculturality and not multiculturality because that concept has been critiqued a lot by cultural studies and literary and political scholars in Canada, and rightfully so. And I'm not saying that pluriculturality is in any way better politically in Canada or works any better, but I'm just saying I want to use a term that actually looks at the standard of several cultures coming together, several academic backgrounds, several cultural backgrounds, several knowledge systems coming together and creating what is Canada and what is discourses and what is politics and what is understood as life, as Canadian life. And I really like that, this multi-perspectivity or pluriperspectivity and pluriversality, so that many perspectives are given voice and many perspectives are acknowledged. And I know that all of this is tied to many, many problems. And I also know that Canada can also be a very racist country, and Canada is still a settler colonial country, still occupying indigenous lands. I know all of that, and yet I'm saying that this standard or normalcy of several perspectives coming together is something that really always impresses me. What is my advice for emerging scholars in Canadian studies? Difficult to say. Just saying, stay put, stay engaged in your topics. You really have to love your research. Of course, also go and travel. Go and look at the country, look at the landscape, look at the people, look at its history, its contemporary lives, and you'll come to love Canada in a sense, I'm thinking. And basically stay put to the study of Canada, although your university structures might not support that, although jobs might not be there in Canadian studies, and although funds might not be there, but just try to stay put and cherish your love for Canada. And continue building networks, continue talking to other emerging scholars in the field of the study of Canada. That usually helps. And try to see how many PhD programs are around and where you can apply and actually continue your study. And basically, just keep loving Canada, and then the rest will just come. Thank you very much for the interview.